moderator is Morgan Riggs, instructor of history. Before we get into the introductions and introducing our two candidates, I want to go over the structure and the rules affiliated with tonight's debate. Both of our participants who we welcome here, both participants have been notified and are well acquainted with the rules of how we're going to structure this debate and how we're going to go about doing it. But for clarity for the audience, I'll go through that for you. Tonight's debate is going to be based on 5 questions. The first 4 questions, the person asked the question is going to be given 3 minutes to give a response or an answer. After those 3 minutes, the opposing or the opposite participant is going to be given 2 minutes to provide a rebuttal or opposing or alternative ideas to that topic focused on that question. After that 2 minutes, an additional minute or 60 seconds is going to be added to the clock, which will give both candidates an opportunity to provide any closing statements for that question. That's for the first 4 questions. The 5th and the final question will be equal time. Both debaters, both participants will be given 2 minutes to give any concluding comments, statements for their party's presidential nominee. Helping us keep time tonight is Ms. Melanie Walker, math and statistics. Is that right? Math instructor here at Northeast. We thank her for doing that. Now that's both the participants have known well in advance what the requirements are for this debate. The focus and how we've advertised this thing is to show that a civil debate can take place without the things we commonly see on TV, whether it's name calling, attacks, answering a question without answering a question, things that we've been well acquainted to with today's political environment. We want to show that we can have a debate without all the mudslinging. In terms of requirements for the audience, we only have 2. It's pretty simple. First thing, if you have not silenced or turned off your cell phone, take 2 seconds to do that, please. We all know that in the classroom, especially as instructors, we know that the most distracting thing in a classroom is when your phone buzzes, it sings, it makes noises. Let's go ahead and knock that sucker out now. The other requirement, if you've seen any of the debates on television, either this year or in previous years, previous presidential election years, you know that moderators will ask ahead of time to silence all applause, keep applause down, refrain from any verbal comments, whether it's in support or opposition to what's being said on stage. If you'll help us out with that, we'd appreciate it. I'll turn it over to Ms. Riggs at this time.
Our debaters this evening are Dr. Ed Holliday and Mr. James L. Hull. Dr. Holliday, our Republican debater this evening, is a native of Ripley, graduate of Northeast Mississippi Community College and the University of Mississippi and its School of Dentistry. His dental practice is located in Tupelo, and he works with the Good Samaritan Free Clinic, also in Tupelo. Dr. Holliday is active in the Mississippi Tea Party and is author of several essays and articles in conservative publications. Mr. Hull will be our Democratic debater this evening. He is the president of J.L. Hull Consulting Multimedia in Tupelo and serves as a political consultant. He was educated at the University of Mississippi and has over 30 years of experience as an award-winning print and broadcast journalist. Mr. Hull's distinguished career includes working as the Director of Public Affairs for the Mississippi Governor's Office. Both men are dedicated advocates for their communities and are both committed to advancing racial reconciliation in Mississippi. While they agree on few things politically, they do pride themselves in being able to have civil debates and maintaining the highest respect for one another. We are very pleased to have them with us this evening to demonstrate what a true civil debate should look like. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ed Holliday and Mr. James Hull to their podiums. Good evening, debaters.
Good evening.
In a coin toss this evening, it was determined that Mr. Hull will take and answer the first question first. We will alternate who answers first for each question. Mr. Hull, the first question. Students graduating from college now often face issues of job scarcity and large amounts of student loan debt. In fact, the average class of 2016 graduate has $37,172 in student loan debt, which is up 6% from last year. College tuition increases almost yearly. What are your thoughts and proposals on how the next president of the United States should deal with the student debt crisis, ensuring affordable college costs and good career options upon graduation?
Well, first of all, let me say good evening. I'm so happy to be here at Northeast to be able to participate in this debate with my good friend and brother, Ed Holliday. Ed and I are really good friends. I love him to death, and he's a great guy. The thing I will say about Ed as we get started is that he always convinces me that he can tell me something about the Republican Party that I really need to know. Okay, so the answer to the question is, first of all, we have to deal with student debt as it already exists. Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Party, has said that one of the things that we need to do if she's elected president is to infuse about $115 billion worth of debt forgiveness. Almost every student in this audience tonight will have debt once you graduate either from this institution and definitely from a four-year institution. The Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, believes that we can infuse debt forgiveness. We also believe that there can be some kind of a refinancing of student debt at current rates. Right now, the current rates are good. That means that if students were able to refinance their debt, they would be able to have much lower payments. There are a couple of things I don't want to get off in the weeds because it is a great subject. Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party have said if a student in this audience wants to start a business in a depressed economic area, part of their debt can be forgiven. If a student in this audience wanted to start a business, period, they can use the starting of that business to forgive part of their debt. So the most important thing is to not let students be indebted in the first place. As many of you know, Bernie Sanders, who was also a Democratic candidate for the presidency, he wanted free tuition, free college education. That's a little unreasonable. I think Hillary would agree with me in representing her position as saying it's almost untenable. But if we can infuse more money into debt forgiveness, give students a head start, then they will be in a much better position to begin their professional careers.
Thank you, Mr. Hull.
When you talk about student debt crisis, and it is a crisis now, you see what comes out of an average of $37,000. If you go to professional school, like dentistry or medicine, some of them are coming out with $300,000 and $400,000 debt loads, and $300,000 to $400,000. So there is a crisis, but there's two absolute necessities when you are looking to solve this problem. Number one, why is the debt going up so high? And why is the cost of college going up so high? And at first I'd like to hit that. One of the things is the skyrocketing healthcare costs. If you run a business, if you're self-employed, or if you're a faculty member at a local university, the debt, not the debt, but the cost of Obamacare is skyrocketing. And we're seeing it even now, this month. We've got to reapply to get medical insurance. And this is one of the things that drives costs, is the fact that Obamacare is something that you mandate to have. You don't have a choice. If you're a citizen, you're mandated to have it. And it's driving up costs in all businesses. There's other things I can get into, but when we talk about student debt, I think that we need to look at some of the reasons cost is going up. And not only for, like I said, not only for the students, because tuition goes up, but that's one of the things that's driving the cost. Now, one of the indirect things that's happening is we got a poor economy. I like to call it an economy stuck on stupid. And the reason it's stuck on stupid is because it's running at 1%. Now, in 8 years, and I give it, we had a great recession when Barack Obama was elected. But the Democrats in control for 8 years, and we're running like 1% growth. Barack Obama is the first president we've ever had elected who has never had a time of growth of 3% during his presidency. And part of that is a Democratic policy of putting on more and more regulations, more and more mandates, trying to control the economy. And what that does is it causes the economy to slow down. You have a slow economy, you don't have as much tax revenue, and therefore what happens? People like, President Northeast and other places, there's not as much money to support the schools, so you have to increase the tuition. So those are things, we look at student debt, we have to look at the reasons why. And one of the most powerful things is what we need is to have an economic engine that's growing at 4 or 5% growth, which Donald Trump says is doable, and he's planning on making it work, and I believe it will. And that gets you the other part of the student debt. When you get out of school, you want to have 2 or 3 great jobs to choose from. And it's not going to happen if you do the same old, same old. This is an election for change. And if you want change in the student debt crisis, it's time to vote for Donald Trump, because he's the one that will bring change. The same old, that's what we're going to get if we keep a Democrat in the White House.
Mr. Hull, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
That is so. Unless Dr. Holliday can draw a direct correlation from the cafeteria plan that faculties and staff have at colleges and universities to higher tuition rates for students in college, I'm not quite sure I can agree with his premise. I don't think that we should be blaming higher tuition rates on health care. There is a tremendous increase in higher tuition rates, but it's not because faculty and staff members are getting better health care. That is just a little far-fetched as far as I'm concerned. One of the things that we're going to have to do is that we're going to have to find ways to control costs as it relates to salaries. I'm sorry, university and college professors. As it relates to a lot of the expansions that are going on. Anybody who has walked across the campus of my alma mater, University of Mississippi, knows they're continuously building, almost to the point where they are building more buildings than they have students that are needed for. So, I don't know.
You have 1 minute.
Well, the reason you don't know this, you probably didn't ask the presidency, but ask those who are trying to control the cost of higher education, and I guarantee you they'll say one of the #1 reasons. I don't care if you're a mayor of a city, the governor of a state, but healthcare costs are exploding and skyrocketing. And the students may not know. Ask your parents. Has their healthcare gotten better in the last 8 years? Has it cost more? Of course, it's costing a large amount more. And when we start putting it in the student tuition and the cost of college, I believe it's a very important point. And it leads to the other point is why don't we have a robust economy? We have to bring, when you got a robust economy, you'll have more taxes, and that will allow more money for education. You won't have to have the tuition increases. And that's why we need Donald Trump to be our next president.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dr. Holliday, we're going to begin and give you the initial 3 minutes for this next question. This is actually a 2-part question over the second amendment. In recent years, we've seen a sharp increase in mass shootings throughout the nation, although they still make up a very small percentage of gun-related homicides in the U.S. per year. First part of this question, Dr. Holliday, how should the next president address domestic safety while at the same time still protecting our Second Amendment rights? The second part of that question, how closely does your response reflect or mirror your party's presidential nominee? 3 minutes, sir.
Well, thank you for both questions, and I believe this is wrapped up at the beginning. You asked how to reflect my position with the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, and I think we're very close on this and agree very much on this. Number one is, do we need more regulations on guns? And one of the things I hear them talk about in presidential debates is, well, if you're on the no-fly list, then you shouldn't be able to get a gun. But the no-fly list is put in place by the government, and we had our Congressman Trent Kelly, who know well, he was talking about he's not for that because the very reason he was about to go fly over to Iraq to fight for America, and his name was on the no-fly list. It's because it was the same name as somebody that they paid. They weren't going to let him fly. He was a military uniform, and because of that, they got things worked out quickly for him. But the no-fly list, the government put anybody's name on there and said you can't have a gun. So you got to watch when you start trying to get regulations about gun control. That's what Hitler did. First time, they want to know where all the guns were, and they did. Eventually, they took them up, and they had nobody that could fight against the Nazis. So that's one thing you have to remember when you start wanting to raise your guns. But one of the things that you brought up, how do we stand? What do we do about mass shootings? Mass shootings put fear to me, to you, and everywhere you go, you want to be safe. One of the most important things you need to know about this election is how do we stay safer than we are now? And what is happening, you look at what they call MAMs, M-A-M. What's a MAM? It's military-aged men. And we talk about Syrian refugees. We brought in over 10,000. About half of those are MAMs. It's not all families coming in. And military-aged men, age 17 to 35, and is that a high risk for ISIS being trained? Of course it is. You may have seen that report this week. This very week, we're over in London. Somebody adopted a 12-year-old refugee from the Middle East. Comes out, he was a 21-year-old. He'd been trained to make bombs, and he was trained to be a terrorist. And they put him off as a 12-year-old refugee. So why does the Democratic nominee want to bring in 70,000 Syrian refugees that are unvetted? When you look at mass shootings in San Bernardino and Orlando, these are people who are influenced by ISIS. And the last thing we need for safety in America is to bring 70,000 refugees from the Middle East that we cannot vet. The CIA says we can't, FBI says we can't vet them. Why should we bring them in when we know there's been mass shootings in Orlando, mass shootings in San Bernardino by ISIS-influenced individuals? That is a scary thing. You think you're going to have 70,000 refugees, half of them being military-aged men coming into America unvetted. Donald Trump and I stand saying that shouldn't happen.
Thank you, Dr. Holliday. Commissioner Hull, you have 2 minutes of rebuttal time.
Charleston 9, American born, American raised. The Florida shooting, the recent Florida shooting, American born, American raised. Colorado, American born, American raised. This is not going to be a conversation about terrorists coming into this country, because mass shootings that have occurred in this country overwhelmingly have been done by Americans, American-born citizens, number one. Number two, if you can't fly, you should be able to buy. It just makes sense. The correlation just absolutely makes sense. If you're on a no-fly list, and by the way, Congressman Trent Kelly was not barred from going overseas because his name was on a no-fly list. He may have been flagged, but he wasn't barred from going. So let's just keep it, let's just keep it real. When we talk about names on no-fly lists, we're talking about social security numbers, we're talking about addresses, we're talking about vital statistical information that has to be matched with the name and the identification information. So Congressman Kelly was not barred from going overseas because his name was on a no-fly list. It took, maybe 48 hours, 24 hours to clear that up. Mass shootings occurred, first of all, as we've seen over the past several years, because we are putting guns in the hands of people who have mental illnesses. I mean, it's a clear fact. We have to deal with this the same way, and I'm not getting off into the weeds. We've got to deal with mass gun shootings the same way this country has begun to come to grips with addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Dr. Holliday, you have 1 minute.
Well, one of the things I will agree with you, James, that over the years, American-born shooters have been part of mass shooting. But over the last couple of years, when you mentioned Florida and Orlando, American born, but influenced by ISIS. He said so. And there's a lot of these things that why increase the risk for mass shootings. Now, there's other things we got to look at, and I disagree with you with the no-fly list. It looks on the top, it looks like, hey, that, if you can't fly, you can't own a gun. But what we find out is a lot of people get their name on there. Now, Trent Kelly, because he's ready to go fight for a country, he got taken care of in 24, 48 hours. You and me, we probably can get it might be weeks or months before we get it taken care of if somebody has a name on there. So I want people to understand Donald Trump stands up for peace and prosperity in this country. That's by being strong on who we let in, and I think that will help us have a safer America.
Mr. Hull, you have a rebuttal period.
Sure. The mere fact that Dr. Holliday can even suggest that it would take us weeks or months in order to get off the no-fly list is sheer speculation. We don't know that. The only thing we can do is maybe find our names on a no-fly list and find out just how long it's going to take to rectify the situation. Let me say this, as a Democrat, as an African American, as a Southern, I believe in the Second Amendment. I think the Second Amendment is one of the most cherished parts of our Bill of Rights. But no right in the Bill of Rights is an absolute right. And this is one of the things that the Republicans would like to try to convince us, that the Second Amendment right is an absolutely bar none. Let's not tinker with it. Let's not touch it in any kind of a way. It is not an absolute right. Love to hunt, love to target practice. It's not an absolute right.
Thank you. And gentlemen, we just want to remind you that Ms. Walker is keeping time. You each have 3 minutes to respond to each question, and then you have a 2-minute rebuttal period. Each of you have 2 minutes after each question for rebuttal.
Thank you.
The third question has to do with women's rights. An issue that is important to many of our students is the candidate's stance on right to life versus a woman's right to privacy, especially in light of the fact that the next president will most likely make multiple Supreme Court appointments. What position should the next president take on these issues? And Mr. Hull, you have 3 minutes.
Well, obviously, the position that the next president should take should be in line with what the Supreme Court has said over and over and over again. A woman has a right to choose however she wants to deal with her body. One of the fallacies in this whole abortion argument is just because a woman is pro-choice, people try to make us, especially people on the Republican side, they try to convince us that just because a woman is pro-choice, that woman is pro-abortion. That's not true. It's just a fallacy in the argument. The only argument that Democrats, Hillary Clinton has is a woman should have the right to choose what she does with her body. This is one thing that I think Dr. Holliday and I can agree on, because I'm a preacher and he is a staunch Christian. People have to make decisions many times that are between them and God. And when people do that, they have to answer to God. They shouldn't have to answer to a policeman. They shouldn't have to answer to a court. The other thing about a woman's right to choose and abortion rights is, when I was in high school, 2 of my schoolmates, not classmates, but 2 of my schoolmates died because of backroom abortions. This is where we want to go back to? Botched abortions in back alleys? Botched abortion in dark rooms? I don't think so.
Mr. Hull, you went slightly over time. Mr. Holliday, Dr. Holliday, you have 3 minutes to answer this question.
Well, this is a very important question. It has been since I was sitting where you are now, when I was a student in Northeast. It's been a question that's gone on through a generation. And I think right here in this election, there's a very pivotal time in America. And I do believe we need a change. And Donald Trump very blatantly put it out that he is pro-life. and he would look to put pro-life judges on the Supreme Court. And the next president will have at least one appointment, and very likely 3, maybe even 4 appointments on the Supreme Court. It makes it very important for you to know the differences. And I know in the last debate it came up, and one of the things that the Democratic Party supported, and their nominee right now, is partial birth abortion. And that is something that she had an opportunity to say she didn't support it. But in partial birth abortion, you get those words and go, well, that's part of abortion. But, and I don't want to be gruesome, and explain exactly what that is. It's when the baby comes out of the mother, everything, the feet, the arms, legs, the heart beating, the head stays in the mother's body, and scissors are placed in the back of the head. The baby's killed. Now, and Hillary Clinton is for that part. She said up until the birth of the baby. Now, the baby birth, when everything's there with the head, and to me, that's murder. I mean, I just have to tell you, that is something that's beyond, I can't handle that. And most of Americans can't. And Donald Trump has said he is against that procedure at all. Plus, he will put judges on the court that see that way too. To me, that's just goes beyond pale to say that that is something that is acceptable in America. And we're going to be making a decision on November 8th. America will make a decision. Do you support this? But we know there's been over 55 million abortions since Roe versus Wade came out. And where are all these people that need to be helping this economy? Well, they're not here because of abortion.
Thank you, Dr. Holliday. Mr. Hull, you have 2 minutes of rebuttal.
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm from the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is made up of working people, everyday folks who are getting up, going to jobs before the sun comes up, many times getting home after the sun goes down. Working people don't have the luxury of being a one-issue party. Working people don't have the luxury of honing in on one issue and trying to develop an entire presidential campaign over one issue. Working people have to be concerned with children who are hungry. Working people have to be concerned with health care. Working people have to be concerned with transportation issues, child care issues, job and employment issues. We don't have the luxury of standing on our soapbox and saying everybody who supports pro-choice is wrong. We certainly don't have the heart to say everybody who is pro-choice should be demonized. By the way, this time last April in 2015, before he qualified to become a presidential candidate for president, Donald Trump was a pro-choice Democrat. And it's interesting to me that the Republicans have lost sight of that. So let's not cloud the issue. The issue is whether or not a woman should be able to have responsibility and control over her own body. That is the only issue here. If a woman chooses to, she can. If she chooses not to, she doesn't have to.
Thank you, Mr. Hull. Dr. Holliday, you have 2 minutes of rebuttal.
One of the things that you brought out, and it's easy to talk about abortion, I was bringing out partial birth abortion and how the Democratic Party seems to back up abortion up to the day of birth, 9 months. And that's way beyond even around the world the standard. So that's something you need to think of. But the other thing is, now you talk about the party of the working people, I think you talk about the Republicans now. Getting up early, going to work. And I believe you talk about the Republican Party. You want to know about Wall Street, you need to look who they're supporting. It's not Donald Trump. Wall Street and the multi-millionaires and billionaires are getting behind the party that sort of the gravy train, it looks like, has been. And so when you're talking about the working people, I believe you're talking about the hard-working Republicans that are out there. Now, getting back to the issue, just one thing, this is an election of change. We've had 8 years, and things are not going as a lot of people would like. And when Barack Obama was elected president, there was a lot that we thought was going to change. And we look around the inner cities, we see strife, we see bickering, we see race problems. And I have to say, I think a lot of it has to do with the economy. And getting back to the question is, a woman's right to be themselves. Where the Republican Party is for women, and the war on women seems to be coming more from the Democratic Party when you start talking about what a woman's allowed to do. And that's the biggest thing I can see when you talk about the Supreme Court and other issues is protecting life. And that's where most women in the Republican Party especially, they want to protect those babies, especially the ones that are out of the body, everything with their head, and then basically murdered. And that's why we stand for life.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Holliday, we're going to begin the fourth question. You will receive the initial 3 minutes for the fourth question. This question is in relation to something that a concern that has received a lot of media attention and public attention over the past several months. Dr. Holliday, after the election is over, what measures should the next president take in order to improve race relations?
Well, the next president does need to work hard. I think the word intentional is what we need the president to do when it comes to race relations. A president will be intentional. And James knows, the fact that James and I are friends, we've both worked on racial reconciliation. Mississippi is known throughout the world as a place where race relations have not been good. And we've had a history of our state is ashamed of. And I think there's no better place than Mississippi to show the world how we love and live together. And I appreciate James' efforts in being a friend. And part of that, when I say our next president needs to be intentional, I believe Donald Trump, even though he's been called racist, he's been called all kinds of names by the media, I think Donald Trump has the potential to bring the best racial relationships to America. The reason why is he knows how to get things done. He knows how to rebuild cities. He knows he's rebuilt these structures in inner cities. He knows how to put people to work. He's got thousands of workers that work for him, black, yellow, brown, white, red. He wants somebody to do the job. And you look at the inner cities of America, and you can go to Ferguson, and go to Baltimore, and you see the racial tensions, and there's some good reasons there for those tensions. Black Lives Matter comes out. But when it comes down to it, one thing I've studied racial relations and been a part of on a national level, on a state level, and a city level, and James knows that, and there's nobody has the one answer. But I really believe in this election, what you're looking at, if you want to see better racial relations, you put Donald Trump in the White House, and we'll have an economy that is just a robust, pumping economy. And what that does is allow for good paying jobs to be created. And when you get a good paying job, you're able to be intentional, to work with your neighbor. And I do think that the president may have to convene, you said what would the next president do? I believe he can convene a committee, a group to come together. How can we be intentional to love each other better, to help everybody get better jobs? But I do believe the way to get that to go the best way is to get our economy in a robust effort. And that is not going to happen. You put anybody other than Donald Trump in, you put the Democratic nominee, and we're going to have the same old thing. We're going to have 8 more years, 4 more years, 8 more years of what we had, and it's not a robust economy. And you're going to have a robust economy for the best outlook for race relations. Because you want better jobs. In fact, if you get a better job, you can help somebody else get a better job. You can create a business, and when you create a business, you got to hire people. And that happens in an economy that's robust. You got to grow it at 4 or 5%. We haven't seen it in 8 years. You let Donald Trump, and he'll show you how we make race relations better.
Thank you, Dr. Holliday. Mr. Hall, you have 3 minutes.
Well, of course, this is the easiest question that's been tossed tonight. I think first of all, we have to understand that any future president has to learn the language of reconciliation before they do anything. We've never heard Hillary Clinton use such language as the blacks. We've never heard Hillary Clinton use language like my African American. So if you're going to actually be a president who's going to further positive race relations and reconciliation, the first thing you got to do is know how to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to address them that don't make them feel more uncomfortable than less uncomfortable. I think the second thing that has to be done is there has to be just a national mindset. And I think that's what Hillary Clinton has done all of her life. One of her first jobs was to work with young African-American men. She's already had much success in trying to get health care for poor children, black and white. She has demonstrated the fact that she cares about the collective and not about the divisive. But Hillary Clinton has already met with families who lost children that probably had some issues regarding poor race relations. She's already said that one of the things that white people have to do is they've got to recognize their implicit bias against African Americans. And then the second thing that I appreciate more than anything else is she said that black people have got to recognize their implicit bias against white people. Everybody has got to recognize that we have some implicit bias. I am a biased person. I am prejudiced. I have my prejudices that go all the way from pants that droop down on young men's rear ends to music that's too loud in the parking lot. I have prejudices against old white men that I've already made up my mind probably, loves the rebel or Confederate flag. But one of the things that I've learned to do is this. I've learned not to let my prejudices get in the way of developing my relationships. Because if I did, Doc and I would be friends. This is a living example that even though you have biases and even though you have prejudices, you don't have to let them get in the way of developing good relationships. That's why I think Hillary Clinton already has a track record.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Dr. Holliday, you have 2 minutes of rebuttal time.
Well, I'm glad I got 2 minutes on this because we have to. One of the things with James and I, like he mentioned, he and I could have the country get along, but then I'm going to let him be president. It's going to be Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. But I do know that Donald Trump will surround himself with people who will be intentional and beyond what the media tries to infuse in people's minds. And the influence of the media is great. And it's influenced me in the wrong way to what Donald Trump could represent for America. But when James talks about the relationship we've built up, and that is true. One thing I want you to leave here tonight is knowing that you can have friends with somebody that you disagree with politically, and it will enrich your life. And you can be intentional, right? I challenge each of you in this audience. If you don't have a friend, a close friend, somebody of a different color than you are, you need to make it your challenge to have that friend. And I would challenge Donald Trump, once he gets in the White House, to reach out and be intentional in making sure that he has friends who are on the level that can help him. Now, him and Don King are good friends. You may not know who Don King is. He's the boxing king that helps put the boxers together. If you see a picture of him, he's the guy that has black guy that has his hair standing straight up. That's Don King. But he and Donald Trump are good friends. Now, Donald Trump has friends that I would push him if he's in the White House to make sure he intentionally goes out and does things and learns the language. If you don't know his language now, he'll have to learn how to speak as president. And that's something that he will surround himself with people to do. And I have faith in the people that he has put around himself, that they will be the people like Mayor Giuliani and others. They will help him. And his skills and ability and potential to bring race relations in America to a level of greatness where we lack so much put it in Donald Trump's hands, give him a chance, and I guarantee you, we'll see some things we've never seen before that are good for America.
Thank you. Mr. Hull, you have 2 minutes.
Let's talk about intention. Hillary Clinton intentionally did not surround herself with folks who pushed the Breitbart agenda. Hillary Clinton intentionally did not surround herself with folks who would push people of color, actually force them out, sucker punch them as they are being escorted out of her rallies. Hillary Clinton intentionally did not make dog whistles about other people, not just African Americans, but Hispanics, Asians. She intentionally did not use that kind of language because even as she was running in the primaries, she wanted to make sure that her language was language of inclusivity and, as I said, the language of reconciliation.
Thank you, Mr. Hull. At this time, both of you for this topic on race relations will be given a final minute. Dr. Holliday, anything else you want to add on this topic? You'll have 60 seconds.
Okay, I do want to add one of the things that we talked about the Democratic nominee, and I won't speak ill of her, but I will say that Donald Trump has much potential, and as he gets into the White House, what he can do for America, because people give him a low starting point, he will go in, and I know Rudolph Giuliani. I've met Giuliani when he's in Mississippi. I've met Senator Jeff Sessions, and this is one of the things that they know. Donald Trump, from his heart, is going to reach out, and the media has presented things in such a way. And I will say that it's been found out that some of the fighting that went on at the Trump rallies was actually been documented to have been sent out by some people who are proven Democrats. So I will say that there's been some less than desired elements in those Trump rallies that were sent on purpose for people who wanted to start some action. But I will say this, the bottom line is this. We've had 8 years. Hillary Clinton's been in power now for 30 years with different people. And I will say, where's the beef? What has she done? And here, why are we where we are at now? What we've got to do is change. This is an election for change. It'll be for the better for Donald Trump in the White House. Better for race relations.
Thank you, Dr. Holliday. Mr. Hull, 60 seconds.
Well, just let me say I've won the debate already because we were 1 minute away from the end, and I haven't used Doc's candidate's name one time.
Is that all?
That's it.
The final question will be for each of you, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer. There will be no rebuttals to this final question. Focusing only on your party's candidate's qualities and not mentioning your opponent. Why is your party candidate the best person to be president of the United States?
Who's first?
I'm sorry, that's Mr. Hull.
Okay. Well, the fact that my candidate has weathered 30 long years of attacks, smear campaigns, just about everything that's been thrown at her, including the kitchen sink, I believe, she's still standing. She has never withered under pressure. She has always tried to comport herself with dignity and grace. I'm not saying she's always done it, but she's always tried to. And so she has the experience as a lawyer. She has the experience as a state senator. She has the experience as a Secretary of State. She has the experience of being on the inside of the White House for 4 years, knowing how it works. But the most important thing as a Democrat to me is she has the experience of touching the lives of people from Appalachia all the way to the Pacific Ocean. She has the experience of touching lives from the Great Lakes all the way to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. She has touched millions and millions and millions of everyday, ordinary lives with her work. And if you're going to be president of the United States, you need to be in touch with the needs of the 300 million people that you're elected to represent. She has an experience, she has a heart, she has weathered the storms of all kinds of character assassinations, and I believe she's going to be a wonderful president of the United States.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hull. Dr. Holliday, your final 2 minutes.
I look at the Republican nominee, Donald Trump, and I see change, good change for America. Reason why? He's a businessman. He's made a top world-class business, employs thousands of people. He has great experience in negotiating. One of the things we haven't talked about in this debate is you out there. You, in your working career, you owe $20 trillion. The government borrowed $20 trillion, $10 trillion of that in the past 8 years, and you're paid for it, like it or not. You know, we borrowed it, and you're paid for it, all young people. So you better get you a businessman that understands what's happening is not going to keep working. We can't keep going down the same road of borrowing trillions of dollars year after year. And why Donald Trump brings to this is a business mind. And I'm going to tell you something. In all your lives, you won't ever see anyone this close to the presidency like Donald Trump, who has made it on his own without Wall Street, without people backing him up. When somebody gives you a lot of money to run your campaign, which Wall Street has done to candidates for years, decades, then they feel like they can pick up the phone and call them. They can't do that to Donald Trump, and that's why they're scared to death he may win. I'm talking about some Republicans and Democrats. They're scared of Donald Trump because they know the gravy train will end. And if you're a hard-working person, and if you feel like you don't have a voice in this country, if you feel like that the political system just runs you by, you won't change, and it'll be like Don King was telling them, why should a black man vote for Donald Trump? Don King said, if you've not been a part of the system, Donald Trump will change the system. He will make a new system where women and blacks and Latinos and whites and everybody can work together. He's going to blow up the old system and make it all new. We won't ever have anybody this close to being the president who can do that and stand up and say he'll do it.
Candidates, you can take your seats. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we conclude tonight's debate. Please join me in thanking Mr. Holliday and Mr. Hull, Dr. Holliday and Mr. Hull once again. Students, make sure that you check your emails beginning tomorrow. We will start mock elections for the presidency tomorrow, and that will end on November the 7th, which is the day before the real election starts.
And a couple more things before we let you go, actually 3 more things. The first one, I hope we all learned something. Both of these participants, through volunteering, presented good, valid arguments for both parties, for both presidential nominees. We hope you learned something. That's number 1. Number 2, as you're on your way out, they have they have nonpartisan flyers available, which gives a more specific side-by-side comparison on the issues, Hillary Clinton's issues, the Democratic nominee versus the Republican nominee, Donald Trump. If you want that, that'll be available for you at the table on your way out. Lastly, if you are a student who came because, not just because, but your instructor is offering bonus points, that's not the only reason why they're here. If your instructor is offering bonus points, turn those student attendance cards in also on the way out. Lastly, let's give one more round of applause for our participants. Have a good night and be careful.